Hello and welcome to Property Mastermind Podcast, episode 232. Today we are talking how to choose the right joint venture partners for 2026. And if you're listening to this in 2026, that's quite hard to say, but if you are listening to this in 2026, it's really how to choose the right joint venture partners. We're going to unpack all the things that you need to know when it comes to choosing a joint venture partner, and the red flags and the things that you want to find in a person that can work with you. So let's jump on into episode 232. Hello and welcome to the podcast. I'm Hilary and this is Bob Anderson. Hey, Bob.
Hey, how you going, Hilary?
If I tell the truth, I just had to do 4 starts to get this pod. I was like, I try and say 232. I was like, it was a mess.
And you were talking at pace, though.
Oh, it was quite hard to say. I mean, you know, I say, hello, welcome to Property Mastermind. Even welcome to Property Mastermind Podcast is pretty tricky. Episode 232. Whew, that was a lot. Anyway, we got there. I just had to push stop and re-record. But Bob, we're talking about how to attract the right joint venture partners for 2026. And as I alluded to in the intro, it's really how to attract the right joint venture partners. And we will give really great tips on how you as a property developer can work with joint venture partners and how to find them, how to attract them. But before we kick into that juicy, meaty topic that is loved by the world, Bob, what's your tip for the week?
Okay. I think joint venture partners are like getting a wife or a husband. Choose wisely and communicate often and well.
Oh, look at you staying on topic.
Only because I do.
Yeah. Well done.
Because I'm perfect.
I think that's a great tip. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're with them for 2 years, let's say.
Yes.
You know, there's marriages that don't last 2 years.
Yes. We'll leave full stop. We'll leave that one there. So today we're going to cover the red flags. We're going to talk about a case study, and we're going to just unpack a little bit about what you need to do and how it does work to attract a joint venture partner. Before we get started on all of the, I tell you what, this podcast has been a hard one, hasn't it? Already we're all over the place. But Bob, and you get the edited version, so we've already had to pull out about 4 minutes. But Bob, before we get started, could you just explain the difference between a joint venture partner and a loan partner?
I'll call them an equity partner and a loan partner. Mm-hmm. A lot of people talk about money partners, and that's true. They are so-called investor is a money partner, but that doesn't describe how the money goes in and what sort of a structure it is. So I like to use the term equity partner, for instance. So the equity partner puts in the equity into the project. So the equity is the part of the money that has to come from the developer. The rest of the money comes from the financier. So it's that equity. But they're what I call in the deal. So they're on the title, they're on the loan, they're in there with the developer, boots and all, in the deal. Their reward is normally a profit share. The other type of money partner, if you want to call it, is what we call a loan partner. So they're not part of the deal per se. They're not on the loan. They're not on the title of the property, but they do lend the equity to the developer from the outside. So we'll call them a loan partner, boots and all in the middle with everyone, equity partner.
Right. So we've got that together, and so we're talking and we're summarising all of them into a paddock called joint venture partners, because that's what people think about. They need to find somebody to come in with them to make it possible for them to either start a deal, do their first deal, do their second deal, or move faster. So there are varying reasons that people might want to have a joint venture partner, whether that be an equity partner or a loan partner. But at the minute, we're calling them all into one circle. And that's interesting. That even brings a question in straight away that we get asked quite a lot. Do I get a loan partner or do I get an equity partner? And Bob, unpack the reasons you might choose one over the other.
Well, the partner, we'll call them the investor now, we're going to just whoever they are. Some people have a preference. Like the equity partner, as I said, they'd be on the loan, in the deal. That might not suit somebody. They might be prepared or be more comfortable lending the money, but not being in there, not being on the title, not being on the development loan. So that would be more of a loan partner. Somebody who wanted to get into the deal, boots and all, get into it, maybe even, lend a hand perhaps, they would be more likely to be an equity partner. And then there's some investors who really don't care. They just want to make money. So the equity partner, as I said, generally makes a percentage of the profit share. The loan partner, they get an interest rate return on their money. They don't share in the profit. So it is different. On a normal, let's say, 22, 24-month duplex, from a developer's point of view, they'll make a bit more profit if they go with a loan partner, because the interest you pay the loan partner would be less than, say, 50% of the profit. So it might suit the developer better to go that way. But at the end of the day, hey, you just want to get an investor. And if your investor wants to be in their boots and all an equity partner, then that's the deal you do.
You never go broke making money.
No, you don't. You noticed that, have you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This wise guy told me that once. Might have been you. You never go broke making money.
That's because a wise guy told me
Who
once.
told
and probably
you?
a wise guy told him. An old Italian developer. This would have been back in the 80s, back in the early days. He was probably towards the end of his development career. And he said to me, Bob, you never go broke making a profit. That's what he said to me. I thought about it and I said, well, yeah, I know what he means. Don't be too greedy. Don't hold out too long for more. Sometimes you're better off, there it is, it's good, making a good profit, I'll just take it now.
I actually used that statement today. I've got children selling a house. My daughter and her partner are selling a property. They've bought another one, and they had an offer, and then they had to get a valuation, and all that stuff was going on. And my advice was go back, negotiate, ask for more. Just ask for more. No is an okay word, and people are so frightened to do that sometimes. But then because of their newness to this industry, I just said, you just got to do what you want. The hell, if that was me, I would have been in their boots. I would have rung them up. I would have definitely gone back. And you and I talked about it and I thought about it when I was just out this afternoon. If you put all that money on the ground and like you say, you put out $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in notes on the ground and set fire to it, it means something. But when you're only seeing it on a contract, it means nothing. And because they're used to they live in an FPOS world. Or a debit card or credit card, they don't use credit cards, I don't believe, but they live in that world. They don't carry cash. So they don't know what it looks like. So it's just a number to them. It has no value. So yeah, I really want to, when I see them at Christmas, put a pile of money on the ground and go, oh yeah, you could have had that. But like you said, set fire to it and see how they go. But anyway, we've gone off track.
I think you go to jail doing that too.
Oh, yeah, you do. Okay.
We won't. Let's not burn $20,000.
No, we won't. But anyway, it was an interesting conversation, and that we've gone off track, but we'll come back on. So you're talking about you never go broke making a profit. So whether they want to be an equity partner or a loan partner with you, it doesn't matter. They're interesting. Oh, you're going to say something?
Well, I was going to say something too. We're talking about the differences of why one might want to do the other. With the loan partner, that could be somebody who has money in their self-managed super fund where they couldn't use it if they were an equity partner. But being an external to the project and not being part of it, they could lend that money from their super.
We often have, and here's a wee plug to the outside world, we often have mentoring students that have great deals. They're overseen by Bob, Aaron. They've gone right through fees. Everything's checked out. And they, self-managed super fund is great for them. So if you've got some money lying around, you want to have a chat with me about supporting one of our people, just reach out via email, I suppose, is probably the best way to find us through admin@propertymastermind.com.au. But again, I've gone off track. I'm all over the shop, Bob. But
joint ventures are like that because you can cut them so many different ways.
Oh, that's what I was actually going to talk about, because I was actually going to ask you to unpack what makes a great joint venture partner. But even before that, because we're talking about loan partners versus equity partners, and you said, they're 50-50 in the deal. Just because they're 50% in the deal as an equity partner, meaning they're sharing in the profit, still doesn't mean that you brought it up. They might want to do some of the work. They might want to have some responsibility, but they can still be 50-50 and have absolutely nothing to do with the deal.
Absolutely, yeah. An example of that could be, let's say you do a joint venture equity partner style. with your doctor, with your dentist, with school teacher, with the guy next door.
Best thing he can do or she can do is stay in their own lane.
Well, they don't want to. Look, particularly busy people or professional people, they want to keep doing what they're doing. What they want to do is make money. And that's what most people, as developers, that's what we want to do, want to make money.
And I think we're going to talk about a case study shortly. And we've got two people, who are both within our programs, and they want to share the work, but it works well because one's busy FIFO, the other one's very busy within his job, and they've both said that it's working really well, which is just, that's fabulous.
Yeah, I think within our community, a lot of joint ventures done. We know that. They get done at workshops, they get done everywhere. And they're people who want to be developers and learning how to be developers. So quite often, you're right, that they want to share the load, they want to learn from it, get the experience of doing it. But somebody totally outside, your dentist, he doesn't want to learn how to be a property developer. He just wants to put the money up, get a report every month how it's going, and make a chunk of money at the end.
Not just your dentist, somebody even, and I'm not being negative, but I might be being a little bit negative. We had some mentoring students, and past mentoring students, but when they never really passed mentoring students, they're always around. But they were working in a joint venture with somebody who had done a different education program, and they just ended up walking away because they said it felt dodgy. It was the pay. There was what else was wrong with
Well,
that?
everything was unequal.
Yes.
Their level of knowledge was way lower.
Yeah.
They didn't really understand the whole process, the joint venture, the structure. There's so much they didn't understand. And I don't quite remember why, but there was also a lack of trust built up with this other party, and they rightfully pulled the plug on it before it got consummated. Better to have a divorce before you get married.
So we're talking about what makes a good JV partner, Bob, and we'll go with what makes a good loan partner. What makes a good, that's the person who they loan you the money and you pay them an interest rate. What makes a good loan partner?
Well, first of all, they got the money.
Yes,
that's a given. They got the money. What makes a good one? Well, they don't have to understand a lot about property development because they can get advice. They can get advice from. Well, hopefully they get the right advice if they get advice. It's always good if the loan partner is, how would I put it? Well, look, sometimes you might say it's better if they don't know too much. They're just happy to put the money in and get a return. But I think it's better myself that they understand what's going on and how it works, where their money's going, what it's going to be used for, how long it's going to be out, what sort of interest rate they're going to get, and to actually understand that. I prefer to deal with somebody who understands that because then they can make a commercial decision and be comfortable with it. And therefore, if they're comfortable with it, everything going right, that should be good. If they were quite unsophisticated, didn't really understand it, along the way they might start, I don't know, worrying, panicking. Somebody's whispered in their ear, who knows, and then that can become a bit weird. So my preference is somebody who at least understands how it works, and got the money.
That's my favourite. When I work with an investor who has already, been through a project with us, they know what we want. I end up just making them my favourites, and it's just so much easier for me to go to them and say, "Hey, do you want to be involved in this?" Because they get the process. The process is, I'm going to need this information from you. You're going to have to sign this, this, and this, and I'm going to be messaging you and needing you to sign or do, and it's all only up front for the first month, whatever it takes. And then it's done. Then we don't have to worry about it. Then I can let them know what's going on in our reporting process, which I need to actually do some reporting tomorrow, I might think. But for me, working with somebody who's been through the process with us before is my favourite because, like you say, they're a bit sophisticated. They're not technically a sophisticated investor because there are criteria around that, but they're just a bit more knowledgeable and they get it. They get that I'm going to need all their details. I'm going to need their tax file numbers and their ABNs and their ACNs and I'm going to need that stuff, and I'm going to have to share it with an accountant. It all goes through ASIC, and there's so much that goes into that sort of thing. And we're probably scaring new people. You're thinking, what? We've got to do what? But that stuff.
It's just normal.
It's just process.
Think about when you buy a house. You got a 30-page loan document, mortgage document. I mean, there's paperwork everywhere. But you're right, because you deal with investors all the time within our own property development company. The more, well, we use the word sophisticated. The more deals they've done, the more sophisticated they are, the easier it is. But everybody has to start somewhere. So if it's their first time they've ever invested in development, they've got more questions. Well, just got to answer them. And after they've done one, they can't wait to do another one. So they're on their way to being sophisticated.
And that's the thing. If you have a great experience with somebody, they're likely to come back and invest with you again. And that's what you actually want, because you make money for them. And everyone, like Bob said, you don't go broke making a profit. And the more you can make a profit with somebody else, the better that is. So, Bob, how do you spot the warning signs early of somebody who might not be a great joint venture partner? Like the example I gave before, where they ended up pulling out. When was it that they realised this person's not right for us?
Yeah, well, they know better than I know, but I think it was a number of things. Really, I think ultimately though there was a trust issue. You can get over a lack of knowledge as long as one of the parties has the knowledge and the other person's okay to get, to let them run that sort of thing. But when numbers are being fudged and trust starts to, if you have to be concerned about trust, you would not go ahead. This is a 2-year thing, and we're talking a lot of money. Most developments these days are in the millions. Like even a 2-lot subdivision could easily hit $1 million. That's only two $500,000 blocks. So everything's in the mills, and very important, big numbers, lots of money. Trust has to be there. That's one of the big things.
So this podcast, I'm thinking we're slowly getting it off topic, and I'll bring it back, is how do we attract the right joint venture partner? Let's go down that road. So how do we attract the right joint venture partner? So how do you, the listener, so if you want to attract a joint venture partner, what's the best way for you to go about it? Let's unpack that for the people who really want to get into property development.
I had a big conversation, not that big, 45 minutes, with somebody this afternoon. You probably know who they are, within the mentoring program, about that very subject. The whole thing was how to build up a database of potential investors, how to get off the ground. In other words, how not to find a development site and then have to start running around trying to find an investor before you lose it, which is not the best way of doing it. And it was all about that. So in terms of finding them, they can come from anywhere. It could be a family member.
Most of the time, it very often is someone close to them. Initially, that first one, it can be quite often somebody you know.
Yeah, because if you think of the old 3 ticks you have to get to do business: know, like, trust. If it is somebody that you know well, and that could be a relative, a work colleague, somebody that you've known for a long time, that know, like, and trust has a big head start.
Do you know, often another one that I hear about quite a bit is somebody's a friend of their father's or something like that. That comes in quite a bit. Yeah. That's one that we do hear. Oh, he was a friend of my father's.
Yeah.
Or is a friend, but mostly I do hear that one a lot. So.
We'd all love a rich uncle.
Yes.
I've never had one. But,
no, haven't you?
So back to that. Some people say, "Oh, I don't want to do something with a relative. I don't want to do a deal with a relative." Well, that's okay. If you really don't want to, don't. That's my answer. But if you're going to make money for somebody, wouldn't it be good to make money for one of your relatives than a stranger? So that's and we've done it, both of us.
And the good thing about the relative is they already know us. They will quite likely like us, and they'll more than likely trust us.
Yeah.
Those 3 ticks are done nice and early.
Big head start. If not, there's our friends, our social friends, that they're potentials. Work colleagues, again. And I'm thinking of somebody who used to fly FIFO and took up property development to get out of doing FIFO. But all his work colleagues were earning, $250,000, $300,000 a year. And so that just became like a database in itself.
Just a group of people he can reach out to.
Yeah. Well, they were all working in the mines to make money. They might have given themselves a 5-year time to make money, pay cash for a house and whatever. And so his work colleagues were his investor base. It's not always like that. Beyond that, if you're going out into the market, so we're not talking about friends, work colleagues or family, then we're going out into the wider market. You've got to go, well, there's a whole heap of ways of doing it, but if you were to go where property people gather, that's a head start. What I mean by that is if you go to a football game, there's a big crowd at the football game, State of Origin, 55,000 people are there. Well, they're all sorts of people. Out of that, there would be a percentage that really like property, and I don't know what that percentage would be. But if you go to a property event, there's 100% people like property. So that's a good head start. Of the people that are there that like property, some will have a good chunk of money, some won't. So now we've started off with property people. Some of those people will have a good chunk of money, and some of those people that have a good chunk of money will be more entrepreneurial, because I think an investor has to be a type of entrepreneur. So they have to be entrepreneurial. In other words, not like super conservative where they're going to freak out if they do anything more than put their money in the Commonwealth Bank. So the people like property, entrepreneurial, wherever property people gather, and you have to sort out where they're everywhere. There are 1,000 events. That can be a hunting ground. Probably doesn't sound good.
No.
I'm not going hunting investors, but that can be fruitful. And then, of course, you've got to train yourself or learn how to communicate, how to approach people.
Oh, and and
we teach all that, even the language you use, in our program. And you have a lot to do with people within our program that are on the investor trail.
It's so much about your ability to connect and communicate. That's it. You have to be able to connect with people and communicate with people so they do, A, get to know you, and B, like you. So if you're a person who's a wallflower and chooses to sit against the wall or not communicate with people or doesn't know how to talk to people, then you're going to find it incredibly hard. But the good news is you can learn, and you need to practice. You need to practice communicating with people, and you need to practice talking to people not about you. That is such a big problem when you're standing talking to someone and all they do is talk about themselves. It's the ratio, you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. You need to listen twice as much as you speak and ask questions. You need to ask people questions about them. And it doesn't have to start off about property, because you've got to get to know each other first of all. And generally when we communicate, we try to find something we have in common. Women a lot go to children. Well, have you got kids? That's a very common thing. But I had a conversation with somebody on the phone today, and when he dropped an F-bomb in the conversation, and that's pretty standard in my world. I do speak to a lot of males, and it's pretty normal. How you going, Adam? But I said, okay, now we're fully comfortable. Okay, we're on the same page now, because that's a commonality in our world. It's quite a casual, how you going, mate, kind of conversation a lot of the time when when you're speaking with people at grassroots level or on a casual level, but he was comfortable enough to say that to me, which told me he liked me and he knew me and he trusted me, which was my first conversation with him. But, that had gone on. So I think people just really don't understand how to make a connection. And like I said, one of the first things you need to do is find out what you have in common. Do they like motocross? Do they like fishing? Do they play golf? Did you know that fishing is probably, I think I heard somewhere, the most common sport globally? People have gone fishing. Their father went fishing. My father went fishing. We go fishing. My kids go fishing. My grandkids go fishing. It is one of those topics that most people can have a conversation on. So fishing isn't a bad one. But there are women, as I said, bring up children. Do you play a sport? Are you into getting up early and going to the gym? What books do you read? Start building a conversational relationship with somebody and get to know them. Because what did we say? The 3 ticks: know, like, and trust. Know isn't getting to know someone, isn't, so how much money have you got? Unless it's somebody I've introduced where they know I've made the connection for them and it's only going to be a transaction. if it's not that, then you have to build that relationship. And people have, really a lot of people have no idea that that's how you attract your JV partners, by communicating with people. What do you think on that one, Bob?
That's a big piece.
That is the piece.
And particularly drop yourself out of the conversation mostly. You will have to bring it back in at some point, whether you're waiting for them to say, what do you do, or whatever.
And 2 to 1. You got
2 to 1, yeah.
Listen twice as much and then add some.
No, that's exactly right. And for some people, it's a big step. For some people, it's not. But you need to practice. You can practice in front of a mirror. If you can do it looking at yourself in front of a mirror and get comfortable with it, then it's it's actually easier, I think, when there's another human being there.
But also just little things like when you're in the supermarket in the queue. I mean, do I not talk to absolutely everybody? Where was I? I walked past someone and I was getting my nails done yesterday. I said, oh, man, I love your hair clip. Like if I like something somebody's got, or I don't know, people find it so difficult to connect with others. And just human connection is one basic needs. And it's something that's being lost. And I believe that the cell phone, social media and our need to constantly look down at a phone rather than connect with others really controls that. But it's such a big part of attracting joint venture partners, because you have to be attractive, and you're attractive when you communicate. It's not what you look like, it's how you interact. That makes you attractive. And attract is the word we're talking about here, Bob.
Yep.
Where's the most crazy pace you've found joint venture partners?
I got a joint venture partner to come in and do a deal once on one conversation, but that was rare. And the reason for that is that they were quite sophisticated. They'd done joint ventures with other people previously. They were reasonably well heeled. So they had a good business brain. They made good money in business. So they understood a good business opportunity when they saw it. They had done joint ventures in property previously, and they had the money. And all they really wanted to know, well, they wanted to know a bit about me, obviously, so up front, but what about the deal? And they could see the numbers. They knew they were real. They could see the profit. They understood the sort of structure I was talking about. So I probably did as much in that one meeting as I might normally take 3 meetings to do. And at the end of that meeting, they were in. So, okay, here's the name of my lawyer. How about your lawyer talks to my lawyer? Let's get a draft heads of agreement done up, and then we can move on to a full joint venture agreement.
So what was that trigger that made them like you instantly?
Well, I'm very likable. Aside from that, I think they're also looking. I did have some experience by that time as well, and that was one of the things they were looking for. Not everybody does, but remember, this is a sophisticated investor, so it's more likely to want to go with somebody a bit more experienced than your average. Most of your investors that we see doing business out there with our students aren't that level of investor. So. Yeah, I just, I was introduced to him, I suppose. There you go. I was introduced to him by somebody that we mutually knew. So there was a connection prior. I didn't bump into him at the checkout like you were talking about. So there was an introduction, and I think that helped. That's probably I was 50% there in terms of that
introduction.
The relationship, the building of the relationship there because of that intro.
That's like what I said before. If I introduce somebody for somebody else, which we don't do all the time, but it does happen on occasion, that there is that level of trust is already built. I had an interesting chat the other day. I was at the hairdresser. That was true story.
Again.
And well, I've got a lot of hair. And the guy next to me is getting his hair cut. And he's probably listening now. So, hey, Chris, how you going, mate? But anyway, Chris was talking to the hairdresser. He wasn't paying much attention to me, and I usually have my laptop, so I was doing something. But I always throw a conversation here and there because, I like to connect with people. It's my thing. And then he went to say goodbye, and I was then getting my hair rinsed. And something came up. He said, he was a real estate agent. And I said, oh, really? Whereabouts? But I think maybe the hairdresser had said, oh, go have a good day, sell properties or whatever. And I'm like, property? Oh, there you go. And so we started a conversation, and it probably went on 15 minutes when he was trying to walk out the door. But what happened then is we started talking property, which is a common interest. And I'm asking, so, where are you mostly selling? What are you seeing? What are you doing? What have you done? And then I started telling him about the things that we're doing and the returns that people are getting on their money. And he was really interested. And I said, look, hey, happy to send you an email. I said, listen to our podcast. You'll, connect with us that way. And I did email him. So that's the other thing. I came back to the office and I'd text myself his phone number. I didn't take a business card or give him one, because that often doesn't work because people forget. And then I sent him an email. I said, hey, great to meet you. Here's a link to our podcast, and, let's keep connected, because we've got mentoring students doing developments in this area, and he's potentially, in the area that they could be selling. So it is a great way to have that mutual connection. But what I'm really alluding to as well is, because I have the understanding that that's how you do it. Like, for everybody listening, for you listening now, that is how you do it. You have to connect with people, and you have to then tell them what you do. And that's where you create that interest. I didn't say, hey, we do developments, and would you like to invest in one? I probably would have at some point, but you just do that soft opening. How you said about the marriage. You don't actually ask someone to marry you straight away. You actually date them. Unpack how you find that going on.
What, dating?
Yeah, no,
I don't date anymore.
No, yeah, that's good. Good to know.
Not since that fateful plane flight. Yeah, well, depending on where I meet them, but same thing. The golden rule: ask questions. Don't talk too much about yourself. Get a feel for them. Get a feel for their. I would get the subject towards property, but then I'm more likely to meet somebody at a property event. That's when I go back. This is not like somebody in the queue or in the gym. I know you talk to anybody and get them going. I'm more likely to meet somebody at some sort of property function if it was of any sort. So property would be the theme. Otherwise, you've got to sort of take it from wherever you are towards property, and ask them about it. If it could be something similar. If it was some sort of property event, could be a free event, could be anything. I'd say, hey, how you going? I'm Bob, and offer to meet them. They most of the time would give me their name. Otherwise, I'd ask them. I said, have you been to one of something? Oh, you've been to one of these before? Could be that simple. And they might say, no, it's my first one. Oh, me too. What do you think? What do you think of that speaker? What do you think of this? And so it'd just be asking them questions. I guess there's a purpose behind the question, to lead them, and ultimately to lead them around to either, well, what do I do? And you don't just say, I'm a property developer. Like, I've heard also, you could be really cheeky. Just depending how the conversation's going. Like I said to somebody today, you're game enough to try this. I'm not saying it's going to work either. Someone says, what do you do? And I say, well, I make people really wealthy while they sleep. What? Well, you think of a joint an equity partner. They make as much money as the developer as if it was a 50-50 sort of deal. So that person's making as much money as the person doing all the work, and their life's changing. Like that's how I think about it. Is you're changing people's lives. Like the investor, most of the time the investor doesn't know how to develop. If they did, they'd probably just do their own development. And so you're giving an opportunity to people like to change their financial life, their financial future. And don't think of it as, and I've heard you say this many times, don't think of it as, I've got to get an investor, I've got to get some money, I want the money, give me the money, show me the money sort of thing. It's what you're doing for them, because you have the ability to make not only yourself wealthy, but other people.
It's an opportunity.
And what's that mean? If you made somebody else wealthy, that means they might be able to put their kids through uni. It might mean they could buy a better house. It might mean they could go on some lovely family holidays. It can mean all of those things that you can create for somebody else that they can't create for themselves.
That's exactly right. People have to see it as an opportunity. You're not trying to get something. The other thing that people don't realize they need to do is they need to talk about it. And it was a bit of a BFO for some mentoring students we worked with a couple of years ago. And I do hear this a lot. Oh, I don't like to talk about it at work because I don't want anyone knowing. But when you think about it, it's your hobby and it just happens to make money. And if your hobby was bodybuilding or painting or gardening or wine drinking in my case, or, triathlons or boating or fishing, you would go to work and at morning tea, you'd be talking about, oh, I went out and I did this, or I caught this amount of fish, or played a great round of golf, or I did the triathlon this weekend, or I weeded the garden and put in some new petunias or whatever that, I don't really know gardening speak, but that we talk about our hobbies. And for a person who's new to property development, who's wanting to attract an investor, show me somebody who doesn't like talking about property. If you could say, oh, I went to 4 open homes, people are like, why are you going to open homes? Are you looking at buying a new house? Oh, no, I'm doing a property development. People will be looking at you like you've got two heads. What do you mean? And it opens the door for a conversation. So you need to tell people that's what you're doing so they realize that there is an opportunity there. That's just a no-brainer. So if you're keeping it a secret, there's two reasons. One, you've probably got imposter syndrome and you're a bit nervous that people might think, what do you mean? Or you don't think you're good enough to do it, sorry. You think you're not good enough. Or the other is you're worried about what other people may think. And just remember that nobody cares about you. They only care about them. Every time you look at someone and think they're thinking about you, they're not. They're thinking about them. So it's you letting people know what you do and creating interest. Not just be interested in other people, be interesting as well. I find so many people are so boring, Bob. Don't you? Sometimes, seriously.
Well, on the odd occasion, the people we mostly mix with though aren't.
No way,
boring,
not in our world.
We don't
No.
come across a lot of those who might be, shall we say, boring.
But I mean, I think, or uneducated, or maybe that don't understand emotional intelligence or have a low level of emotional intelligence when it comes to communicating, being things like you can have a phone conversation and after 20 minutes you've spoken for 3 minutes and they've spoken for 17 minutes. It's like a blooming game of tennis.
Well, yeah, I had a friend like that once. Whenever she'd phone, oh no, here we go. So you'd avoid a couple of calls, but eventually you sort of had to because I knew her family really well, and it was just a dump every time.
They ring up to dump on you.
Yeah, and you get off there like feeling exhausted.
Mm.
So no, not that sort of. Never do a joint venture with that individual. So yeah, it's all of those things.
That's how you attract. It's all of those things. So it's understanding which type you might want, and it doesn't even matter initially because if you need to have an investor to move forward, then it's going to be what they want more than likely. If they're uneducated and they don't care, then it can be what you want. But like we say, or like Bob taught me, you never go broke making a profit. So if you can move forward because they only want this way, well then so be it. Don't lose that person because of that. And then all of those things. Listen, communicate, connect, talk about property, go to where people are. The only people that are kind of knock on your door to talk to you when you're at home are traveling salespeople and Jehovah's Witnesses, So they're not interested in your property developments. They're coming to talk to you. So you've got to get out of your house and connect with people. What do you think of that?
Well, you have to too. And like I said earlier, for some people, that's what do you call it? A big step out of their comfort zone.
Mm.
But you've got to do it.
Mm.
I mean, think of the reward for doing it. That's what I'd like to think of.
Yes.
Let's say stepping out of your comfort zone and doing that and doing a project with an equity partner or joint venture, we'll just call it joint venture, your half even could easily be worth 200 to 300,000. I mean, is that worth the effort? But not only that, once you do it, it becomes easier and easier. And over a period of many years, it's worth millions. Like, why would you not do it? How many hobbies make that sort of money?
Yeah, exactly. So another thing that people need to do, Bob, is read people. Like you don't want to go in and scare somebody with your over energy if they're very back, but you don't want to be very back if someone's over energy. You've got to match someone at where they are to be able to connect with them. That's how you build a connection faster. I suppose I keep going back to the connection because it's so important when it comes to joint ventures. I just find it personally easier to go straight to a casual level as fast as I can. get on that casual level, which is finding that commonality. So what do you think, which personality do you like to work with best when it comes to joint venture partners, or which ones do you think affect the joint venture?
Oh, well, we've worked with all of them. There's that type of personality that wants extreme detail analysis. They can be a bit hard because they're trying to analyse something that they often don't really fully understand, which is property development. And then the questions start to get annoying because some of them are just totally irrelevant, and they can suffer, paralysis by analysis sort of thing. And they're probably the hardest type of person. If you get them on side, they're good, but probably not that. You could say the person that tends to jump into things and makes fast decisions, that might be the easiest, although those people can often jump into the wrong things. But if you've got a good deal, then that's good. Middle of the road people that see the bigger picture, do a level of analysis that's adequate, and then make their mind up. So they have to, So people are people. I mean, you think of a project where we've got multiple investors in a project. There's quite a range of personalities. I mean, personalities is your thing. You've studied personality profiling, but there's all sorts of types of personalities in any one project, even, isn't there? And you deal with them. So you deal with them, and as you say, at that level. The ones that really want the detail, it's sort of annoying, and I can get a bit short, probably.
Yeah, people don't know that though. It's me that
dealing with it.
You will get short, but then I just kind of manage
but I don't,
that. Yeah, they don't.
I don't talk to them. So
no. I suppose what probably is quite interesting when you're connecting with a joint venture partner is getting them to commit, because there's, like you brought up, people that are decisive, and often we'll find people that are interested and they're not always honest. They make out they've got more money than they have, or they don't really tell the truth, and they'll never go ahead. I've had people that have gone close to the line too many times, and then I don't trust them after that, so I don't really put them on my list of contacting, because if they've let me down too many times, or they've said yep keen, and then they get the information memorandum, it makes a great profit, like it's a no-brainer, and then no, I don't want to.
Even worse when they ghost you. You get back to see what they think of it, and no, don't answer. I give them one chance and toss them.
Oh, yeah, I give them probably 5 or 6. I get that people, their money might already be out, or they might have something else going on. I get all that. So I'm pretty good. But when it's too often, because they reach out to me, if I've said anyone interested and they said, yeah, and I give it to them and it's no, I'm like, how could that be a no? Like this latest deal that we've got going so good, I'm an investor.
You're the largest investor.
I'm the largest, because it's just such a good deal, and it makes such a great profit. And I just think, crikey, I'm so going to do that. So, when people, so you're going back to how I started that, you need people that are decisive, and they've got the bottle, the apple, they've got they'll say yes and they'll follow through, rather than saying yes and then pulling out too many times. Yeah. So you've got to, how do you trust, Bob, that someone's not going to pull out?
Well, until they sign on the dotted line, nothing's done till it's done, sort of thing. But most people, you can sort them out like fairly quickly.
Because it becomes, once you've got through that friendship, know, like, and trust situation, it becomes a business transaction. It is, this is the process now. You just follow, like property development, you follow the process. This has to happen, and then this has to happen, and this has to happen, and this is how we go forward. So all of that stuff is a process. So it's quite transactional after that.
Yeah, and when we're talking about lining investors up for a project, we might have a project and now we're quickly looking for some investors, or we might be trying to line up some potential investors in advance of then finding the project. So that I always say, 1 in 3. If you've got 3 people that have said, yes, I'd like to invest in a project when you get one, and they say they got the money and they're keen, probably 1 in 3 actually sign up on the dotted line.
How do you think beginners need to approach investors?
It can be daunting, but it can also be, they mightn't have done a project before. Now you've got to talk an investor into doing a project. So my first 2 projects I ever did were like that. Vendor finance deal, first one, joint venture with an equity partner. but they were people. That was the second one was a sister's boyfriend. So there was a no like and trust thing happening there as well. The first one wasn't. It was like with the landowner, but he got to like me pretty quickly.
And that was within a conversation. He got to like you pretty quickly. It's not like so that's it. You built up that instant relationship.
And he asked me a lot of questions, way more questions than I asked him. But yeah, a lot of information was exchanged to the point that we're pretty comfortable with it. But other than that, beginners, it is a bit harder. I mean, people. Sounds like a pitch, I can't help it, but people that are within our mentoring program can lean on the fact that we're guiding them and advising them and helping them and holding their hands and checking everything. That can help.
But if they're not, they just have to fully understand. If somebody doesn't understand the difference between an equity partner and a loan partner, like you cannot be out there asking people to do a joint venture when you don't know the difference.
Don't know the difference, don't know anything about structure, don't know anything about finance, like don't even try.
You just come across as stupid.
Stupid pretty quickly, yeah.
And nobody's going to trust you if you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It takes some learning and some practice to be able to do it. But once you can do it, the world opens up.
Well, I'm going to actually give AJ a plug. I gave him a plug a few weeks ago. He's got a great deal right now. He's looking for investors and he's done so much. Like he understands everything. He's really worked hard. He did join the mentoring program. We talked, maybe a year or so ago, but he's just come such a long way and he knows what he's doing and he's so diligent and,
I've looked at that. It's a good deal.
It is a good deal.
Just needs one or two people with a few bucks.
Yeah. So if you're interested in having a conversation about that, reach out because I can connect you with him. And he's definitely somebody who's done that work, that understanding, knows fully, and it's been overseen by Property Mastermind. Like Bob's checked it, FISO's done, everything's been looked at. So it's solid.
And he's a gun developer in the making.
Absolutely. Yeah, he really is because he not just because he already works in the field. I mean, you don't have to work in that field, but he works in construction, so he has that little bit of knowledge. But he's used to hard work.
Yeah,
long hours. He puts the time in. He's just a solid guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's definitely looking at someone like that, and he is approaching people. He's doing everything we said. He's got a great information memorandum ready to show investors. So now, and that's another thing, Bob. When we're talking about attracting the right partners, when you do attract the right partner, then you've got to show them your information memorandum. How careful do you need to be? Obviously I know the answers to this, but I like asking so the listener can understand that they do need to be careful when you're giving away that information. How careful do you need to be when somebody that site's still out there?
Well, that's the problem. If it's out there and you haven't put your foot on it, haven't locked it up with an option or a contract, you can't give the address away. If you have locked it up, that's totally different. But just because the address isn't there, everything else can be right. Also, it's a balance. You don't give away too much too soon to somebody you don't know. So it would be like a basic information memorandum that goes out there. It wouldn't have a full feasibility, but it'd have the main 6 or 7 numbers in it. Well, there's a whole way of doing an information memorandum, which we're not talking about at the moment, but you don't give away too much too early until you've actually spoken to somebody and understand that they're genuine. So yeah, it's that until you if somebody just said, send me a copy of the FISO.
Oh my God.
There's people that do that. Hey, they even try doing that to us.
Flick me the information memorandum. It's like, do you think? I'm not going to flick somebody an information memorandum. I'll have a chat with you first. I want to know what sort of money you've got, as in, like, is it self-managed super fund? Is it cash? Or, how fast you can get it. If we're settling on a particular day, I don't want to say get all the way to the dotted line and they say, oh no, it's actually out somewhere else and I'm not getting it back for another 4 months. It's like, I need to know that information. So you need to, and that's part of the know, like, and trust. Like you have to have an open conversation with money. And probably in all my thousands of conversations, I've only ever had, it's 2 or maybe 3. I'm thinking it's I'm going to go 3 people that have said, "Oh, I don't want to say how much money I've got," which tells me they have none.
Yeah, pretty sure bet.
Yeah, one of them. I just you just know, and in fact, there's been stories come around afterwards, and people have said, "Oh, I know that person," and they say stuff, and it's like, "I thought that." So if somebody can't be honest with you because you're not actually asking what you're worth, you say, "How much have you got that you'd like to invest?" If they can't say, "Well, I've actually got 200,000, I've got 100,000, I've got 500,000," if they can't say what that number is, well, then you're not saying how much you got in the bank, what's your house worth, how many rentals. Yeah. No one's asking that.
How much do you make?
Yeah, no one asks that. So that's a bit of an interesting one, isn't it?
Yep, that's a quick conversation.
Yes. So when you just give out that information memorandum, and what we do is we actually give out a preliminary one. So first of all, we ask people, people say they're interested, we have a chat with them, and that's the first thing. I'll have a chat, engage what they've got and see if it's going to work. And then I'll send a preliminary information memorandum that doesn't have all of the details, because we can't give away all those details, because that's our IP. It's if we haven't locked it up, if it might not be signed yet. So I'm just gauging what's out there to see what is out there. And then my next move is
talk to them again.
And then after I've talked to them again, they'll say whether they're interested or not. And then if they are, and I'm still saying, so are you likely to go ahead? They're not signing anything. Then I'll give them the real information memorandum. By then we kind of know where we're sitting. Yeah. And that's just the way I do it. Is that the way you used to do it?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't just throw everything out there and hope some of it sticks. That's not a business plan.
No. We're quite strategic with it.
You have to be.
And I make notes on the people, like, who I've talked to, and they just they were going to go ahead but changed their mind because,
And why not? If you've spoken to them twice, given them an information memorandum plus the detailed 1 second, and they don't, that's fine. No, you don't have to, but why not?
Yeah, just I need to know why. Was the money unavailable? So many times it's their kids advise them not to.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Not so, a few. Probably had about 4 of those. No, gosh, no.
The other way around.
Yeah. So, Bob, what's the joint venture that you did that taught you the absolute most? The good experience.
Well.
Oh, actually, I know. What about the one that you did where you allowed people to have input?
Well, that was a mistake. My first one was the one I learnt the most. Like, obviously, starting from such a low base, everything I did, I learnt almost on the run. And so I learnt the most out of that, because I started off with just slightly above zero and ended up with a deal that made good money. So, and it's often that way. Your first project's the one where you learn most. After that, you just keep refining and sharpening the pencil. The one that was a mistake, that one I made, which was a joint venture. It was a 5-story apartment block, and I brought about 5 or 6 people into it. But first time ever, before or since, I gave them too much say in it, in like choosing staff and critiquing the design, and as a result, it dragged on, and they ended up having a fight over the tiles. I think we lost 4 weeks choosing tiles. 4 weeks of interest when the building's like half built. It was probably a $20,000 fight over tiles.
Ridiculous.
Never again. Never before, never since. One person has to drive the project. You can't. The other person can be given some work to do, but one person has to have the final say. You can't have 2 people with equal say in a joint venture.
No. We need a 51%er.
Well, it'll never happen. And the same with ours. I mean, my question is, well, have you done more than me? Do you know more than me? So if you don't, better let me do it. And you can't always say that. I mean, I do. I learned to say that a long time ago. But you can't have say a money partner who knows nothing versus you that knows a lot. You have to make the decisions, and that's the way it has to be. You can't have a 50-50 in terms of the final decisions. You can discuss stuff, take their opinion, but someone has to make a decision on everything.
Yeah, our preference is that they just let us do it. They just let us do it. They trust us. It's not.
Yeah. We send them a lot of photos and report back, but I mean, none of the investors can do it like we can do it.
So let's summarise this one before we do. Actually, Bob, we forgot to give the book away. Going to Adam Broom. Adam, it's in the post. Great great chat with you today. Looking forward to working with you. And for anyone wanting to get their wife or someone in their family a great Christmas present, 3 Wines In, the link will be below. Great book.
I was talking to somebody this afternoon who wants to get one of them for their wife for Christmas. I'll tell you later.
Great. There you go. It's just won 2 Australian awards. So actually 1 international award and 1 Australian award. So it's not a bad book, really. It's quite good. But in summary, if we're talking about how to attract an investment joint venture partners, crikey, we need to get out there. And we haven't actually covered online, but you can also network online. We're running an event this weekend online, and we're going to do breakout rooms. I haven't told you that yet. And that's a great opportunity for people to talk about what they're doing. So get out there, wherever there is for you. Property events, any sort of event. Connect with people all the time. Get off your phone and have conversations with people, because you never know who you're sitting next to. And we've got a great you never know story when we met our neighbour that time that we thought was a homeless guy, and he ended up being a multi-millionaire, lived on the hill. Crazy story, but we honestly thought he was the homeless guy and felt sorry for him. Ended up chatting to him, ended up having dinner with him numerous times. The whole situation was really funny, only because I had to talk to him because he just looked so lonely.
Yeah. Lived in an $8 million penthouse.
Yeah. So it was really interesting. But that's, get to know people, take every opportunity to connect with people, learn how to communicate. Really think about having a conversation with the next person you're with, even if it might be your spouse when you walk in the house tonight. Ask them questions. Try the ratio, 1 mouth, 2 ears, and really give that a go and see how you go. And then get it onto property. Steer that conversation to property. Remember, property is your sport. It's your hobby. If you're not full-time into it yet and you're looking for partners, then treat it like your hobby and talk about it like you do whatever your other hobby is, whether it's whatever, Netflix, golf, whatever. And then reach out, make that connection, and ask them if they would like to be a joint venture partner with you, and then follow the actual process. Have we, as far as attracting joint venture partners, Bob, the right ones, have we covered everything, do you think?
As much as we can in a podcast.
I think it is as much as we can in a podcast. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. You've taken control of it. Lots of good stuff.
I suppose because this is something I do so much, so it is my topic.
It is.
But it's really around networking, and there are plenty of opportunities to network everywhere. And there are local groups you can network at. That's just business. Anyway, we hope you've got something out of episode 232. Try and say that, 232. And we will catch you again next week. Oh, is it Christmas yet? It's getting close. We're pre-recording this one, so we might be a week before. We might, yeah. Anyway, we'll catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.